For as long as we've been around, sleep has been one of the most perplexing mysteries. We spend about a third of our lives doing it, yet ask anyone to describe what it feels like and they'll be lost for words. In fact, despite all the science we have at our fingertips today, there are still more questions than answers when it comes to this basic biological process. But that hasn't stopped scientists from getting some pretty deep dive. Over the years, researchers have learned a lot about sleep and how it affects our bodies, and now a new study is revealing some of the secrets of our nightly rest. Let's take a look at what's really going on when you go to bed. First, we need to talk about REM sleep. It stands for rapid eye movement, and it's the deepest part of our sleep cycle where our dreams tend to be the wildest. But while we're busy chasing butterflies through fields of green cheese, crazy things are happening to our brains and bodies. For starters, our brain activity starts to resemble wakefulness. Our eyes dart back and forth under our eyelids and our breathing becomes faster and more irregular. This stage typically kicks in about 90 minutes after we fall asleep. And it's during REM sleep that our brain processes all the important stuff we've learned throughout the day. It transfers memories from our hippocampus to our cortex for long-term storage. That's why people who are sleep-deprived have trouble remembering things. They didn't get enough time for their brains to do this kind of memory maintenance. But REM sleep also helps us process emotions. Scientists have found that REM sleep helps extinguish negative emotions. So when you wake up feeling refreshed, you can shake off bad feelings from the previous day and start fresh. There are a few other cool things that happen during REM sleep. Our brain stops producing serotonin, which could explain why people don't typically dream about happy things. Also, our brains get flooded with dopamine, which may be related to dreaming about pleasurable experiences. What's more, REM sleep might help us be more creative. A 2014 study found that REM sleep promotes insight thinking by reactivating concepts previously encountered earlier in the day, connecting ideas that might seem totally unrelated. So if you have a problem that's been keeping you up at night, try sleeping on it and you might just wake up with a brilliant solution. The next thing we need to discuss is NREM sleep, which stands for non-rapid eye movement sleep. And it's not a single phase but a collection of 3 phases that we cycle through before we reach REM sleep. The first phase of NREM sleep is relatively light. It lasts only a few minutes, and it's easy for someone to wake up or even talk you out of it. During this stage, your muscles relax, your heart rate slows down, and your brain waves begin to slow down as well. This is when your mind starts to wander into dreamland. You might see hallucinations and hear whispers, but you can still be woken up pretty easily. From there, we move into the second phase of NREM sleep. This is when your body temperature drops, your breathing becomes slower and more regular, and your heart rate continues to slow down. It can last anywhere from 10 to 60 minutes, and it's harder to wake someone up during this stage than the first. If you're awakened, you might feel disoriented and confused for a moment. But as the stage progresses, it becomes easier to wake up. The further you go, the less time it takes to transition between the two states. Finally, we come to the third and deepest phase of NREM sleep, which can last up to 2 hours. This is when our bodies are at their most vulnerable. According to a study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, growth hormone production peaks during this time, which helps repair muscle tissue and promote growth. That's why people who are sleep-deprived have trouble gaining weight. Their bodies simply can't recover properly without enough sleep. This phase is also when our brains remove waste products. In fact, scientists have found that sleep deprivation increases the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease because it prevents the brain from clearing out amyloid beta, a protein that builds up in Alzheimer's patients. Another thing that happens during this phase is the restoration of our immune system. A 2016 study found that sleep deprivation weakens our immune systems and increases inflammation. But when we get enough sleep, our immune cells replenish themselves and become stronger. As you can see, NREM sleep is essential for our physical health, but it's not without its drawbacks. One downside is that it makes up the majority of our sleep, so it can sometimes feel like we're not getting enough rest. Additionally, many people experience sleep disturbances during NREM sleep, such as sleepwalking, sleep talking, and bedwetting. These behaviors are often the result of sleep disorders like sleep apnea, which causes people to stop breathing while they sleep, or restless leg syndrome, which makes people feel an irresistible urge to move their legs when they're trying to sleep. To make matters worse, these sleep disorders are becoming more and more common. In fact, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine estimates that over 10% of Americans suffer from a sleep disorder. That's why it's so important to understand the science of sleep and what happens to our bodies when we go to bed. By learning more about our sleep, we can find ways to improve it and treat sleep disorders more effectively. One way we can do this is by understanding our sleep cycles. As I mentioned earlier, we cycle through different stages of sleep throughout the night, and it turns out that these cycles are highly predictable. In fact, scientists can use an algorithm to predict what stage of sleep you'll be in at any given time. That means if you want to wake up gently, you can set an alarm for when you're in a lighter stage of sleep. This can make waking up feel much more natural and prevent you from feeling groggy. Another way we can improve our sleep is by understanding our circadian rhythm. Our circadian rhythm is the natural sleep-wake cycle that occurs over roughly 24 hours, and it's controlled by a small region of the brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This region is sensitive to light, so it uses cues from the environment to determine when it has time to sleep and when it has time to wake up. That's why it's important to get sunlight in the morning and avoid bright lights at night. These cues help regulate our circadian rhythm and promote better sleep. We can also take steps to ensure that our bedrooms are conducive to sleep. For example, it's important to keep our rooms dark, quiet, and cool. There are also certain foods that can promote better sleep, such as tart cherries, kiwis, and walnuts. These foods contain compounds that help regulate our circadian rhythm and promote relaxation. Despite all the progress we've made in understanding sleep, there are still a lot of unknowns. For example, scientists are still trying to figure out exactly what happens in our brains when we dream. They're also trying to understand why we need sleep in the first place. Some researchers believe that sleep may have evolved as a way to conserve energy, while others think it helps us process memories and prepare for the next day. Whatever the reason, it's clear that sleep is an essential part of being human. It's a time when our bodies and minds recharge so we can take on the world again. So the next time you go to bed, take a moment to appreciate the amazing things that are happening to you. From the intricate dance of your neurons to the restoration of your immune system, sleep is a truly remarkable experience. And the more we understand about it, the more we can appreciate the incredible complexity of the human body. So do you have any tips for getting a good night's sleep? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.